The Cemetery, 1975. We called him Morrison because he owned a pair of leather pants and was always listening to the Doors. He was older than me, and we used to hit the bars together and drink Carling Black Label. Morrison had a summer job at the cemetery on the Lakeshore Road, so I got to hear all the jokes. The cemetery is such a great place to work. Everybody's dying to get in there. The cemetery is such a great place to work. They have to put bars around it to keep out all the applicants. I have such a responsible job. Every day when I go to work, I have hundreds of people under me. And, of course, the cemetery is a great place to work. No one ever complains. Late one Saturday night, as we were making our way back from downtown, Morrison said, "I just want to swing by the cemetery for a minute." "Why? Is there something wrong?" I knew he liked his job. I just didn't think he liked it that much. We've been having some trouble lately." "What kind of trouble?" "Oh, you know." I realized I was going to have to drag it out of him, so no, I told him, I don't know. And finally he said it was the Bobs. "You know about them, right?" he said anxiously. "Yeah." "Have they been trying to get at the bodies?" I asked. "I think maybe. If we have a fresh plot, they're supposed to like fresh graves, eh? Or they use the place late at night when there's no one around in there, you know. We had a funeral Friday, so I just thought I'd swing by and make sure everything is okay." From a distance, I thought I could see lights moving around among the tombstones, but they might have come from the windows of the nearby houses. Entering the grounds, Morrison stopped and lit a cigarette under the nearest street lamp. If anybody's in there, he wants to warn them we're coming, I thought. But I wasn't sure if that was a good idea or not. Morrison led the way to a newly dug grave. It appeared to have been left unmolested. "How come you think the Bobs come here?" I mean, I know why. I saw one." "Oh, yeah?" "Come on," Morrison said. "I know where the boss hides his beer." I guess he felt more like talking now. Soon we were seated in mismatched chairs by the shed and sucking on stubbies. "Sometimes the boss has to take off a bit early and he leaves me to lock up, eh? Well, one night I noticed this girl out walking on the paths." "Oh, yeah?" Morrison's glare told me not to interrupt. So I go over to her and tell her the cemetery was closing and she'd have to leave. Well, she thanked me with a wide smile and left. She wasn't bad looking, kind of skinny, with long brown hair and freckles, and had these dark glasses on so I couldn't see her eyes. She wore one of those old-fashioned hippie dresses and sandals. I didn't think anything more about it after she left. "It sounds to me like you thought a lot about it." Another glare. "But that's just the thing. I shouldn't have given it another thought. I mean, she wasn't bad, but I found myself thinking about her all that night, and the next day at work I kept hoping she'd show up again. And she did. I noticed her late afternoon, when we were starting to put the equipment away. She was walking the paths on the far side of the cemetery. I volunteered to stick around and lock up. The boss was only too glad to let me. Once he was gone, I went over and spoke to her. "You like to walk here?" Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't the best opening in the world, but it was all I could think of at the time. "I love it here," she said, giving me another wide smile. "I find it so peaceful here. I love to walk the pathways, reading the names and dates on the stones, and dreaming. I'm a poet, and I find this restful place inspires me." "I'm into poetry too," I said. "Well, at least into lyrics. Well, some lyrics. By certain bands. You know, weird scenes inside the gold mine." Her name turned out to be Fiona, and she came every day. Locking up had slowly evolved into my exclusive job, so I would walk her to the gate and see her out. I asked her once if I could walk her home. I mean, she must live in the neighborhood, right? But she told me she had a car nearby, so thanks, but no thanks. I couldn't see her eyes because of those damn shades, so there was no way I could really read her. Did you see a car? Nope. It probably would have been parked down on Lakeshore, eh? Close to the gates. But there were no cars in sight. Well, where did she go then? Morrison was looking very uncomfortable. She vanished. How could she have vanished? I said with some asperity. I don't know. She just did. Maybe it'll make sense later. Morrison covered his embarrassment by getting up and getting us a couple more stubbies to suck on. How come you never told me about this? I asked when I finally came up for air. I don't know. I felt stupid, I guess. I see this girl every day for a week, and I'm practically dying to ask her out, but I don't get any further than her name and that she likes poetry. But there was something else. I felt there was something wrong. Something I didn't understand. I mean, she was there every day without a break. Doesn't that strike you as odd? Maybe, or maybe she was just dying for you to smarten up and make a move. And you did, didn't you? What happened was this. One day I see her walking in the distance. We even waved at each other, but I couldn't see her when it came time to lock up. I figured I would have noticed if she had left, so after I locked the main gate, I decided to walk around, see if she was still in here. And all the time I'm thinking, this might be it. This might be it at last. It was an overcast day, and everything was in shadow when I got back into the trees. I hadn't seen any sign of her anywhere. I thought about calling out for her, but I would have felt too stupid. And then I decided to look in the back corner of the grounds. You know the spot. Not too many stones and not close to any houses. It was really dark back there, almost as if night had fallen. And that's when I found her. She was on her back, naked, her pale skin almost glowing in the twilight, as slim as a boy, and I wanted her so bad. I never thought about how weird it was. I just tried to say her name. But nothing came out, just a croak, and then I stepped forward and saw she didn't have a head. I think I screamed maybe and grabbed onto the nearest tombstone for support and hung on there, staring. I don't know for how long. My mind was gone. I was totally unable to think. But when I came to, it was with the thought, somebody murdered her. But who? There hadn't been anybody around all afternoon that I could remember, and then it occurred to me that somebody might think I'd done it. I'd get blamed for it. I sensed the movement behind me, and there she was, her head coming right at me with her mouth open wide and all those sharp little teeth, and I could see her eyes were two red orbs, and I instinctively raised my elbow, and she slammed into it and bounced back and struck one of the gravestones hard. I took off running, crashing into headstones, and I could hear her coming up behind me, making this weird noise, kind of like, "Ee," and then she was swooping at me, and I had my hands up to try to fend her off, and she tried to bite me, but missed, and then somehow I was in the shed and managed to get inside and slam the door. I heard her bang up against the door a couple of times, and then she was around the side here, looking in at the window. She sort of hung there, staring in at me with this look of incredible hatred. "Go away and leave me alone," I yelled. "I didn't do nothing to you. I really liked you. And I won't tell anybody if you go away. I won't breathe a word." But she just kept looking at me. She wanted me all right. To eat my flesh. Finally I lay down on the floor there, right under the window where I couldn't see her and she couldn't see me. But I could hear her. I could hear her, and she was calling my name. I just shut my eyes and tried not to listen. When I looked up later, she was gone, but I was afraid to try to leave. I drank up most of the boss's brewskis, trying to get my courage up. but it was only when it started to rain later that I tried leaving. She was gone, or at least I didn't see her, and I haven't seen her since. Don't want to see her. I won't leave the house alone after dark, and I damn well wouldn't have come in here tonight if I'd been alone. Gee, thanks, I said sarcastically. Danger is my middle name. Morrison didn't appear to have heard me. Looking back, we thought something was disturbing the grave, but we just thought it was an animal, maybe a stray dog, not... He trailed off into reverie. I finished my beer, then said sprightly, "Hey, man, I think she really liked you, too. She thought you were good enough to eat." I'm not sure that helped. The moral of the story? It's not always fun and games when someone loses their head over you. The end.